Well, first I want to start off by um, warmly welcoming all of you who are participating tonight, including members of the public. We are so excited to be here to present to you the tremendous work that has been done with the Design Charrette 2020 that was sponsored by AIA. My name's Deddy Piker. I'm going to be a moderator tonight. I'm also an architect and on the board of AIA Santa Barbara chapter and a co-chair along with Cass Ensberg and Ellen Bilston, who are going to make this initial introductory part of our presentation tonight. So again, we're so excited. This has been one of the most amazing experiences that I have been through, and I think many others share the same feeling. And we are really looking forward to having each one of our teams share their work product tonight. And each team will have about 4 minutes to make a presentation. So before we take it any further, I want to introduce Matt Beausoleil, who is our president, our chapter president, and I want him to say a few welcoming words to our audience tonight.
Yeah, well, thank you, Deddy. Thank you for that introduction. And thank you for all of those who are attending tonight. I already see that there's about 230 people on the call, which is pretty amazing. So thank you for being here and thank you for your interest. I wanted to share briefly with you and the people on the call tonight a little bit more about our organization and our local chapter and what we're up to right now. Founded in 1857, the American Institute of Architects works to create more valuable, healthy, secure, and sustainable buildings, neighborhoods, and communities through nearly 300 state and local chapters, AIA Santa Barbara being one of them. We advocate for public policies that promote economic vitality and public well-being. Members adhere to a code of ethics and conduct to ensure the highest professional standards. AIA also provides members with tools and resources to assist them in their careers and businesses. The organization also engages civic leaders and the public to find solutions to pressing issues facing our communities, institutions, in the nation and around the world, which is why we're all here today. Our local chapter, AIA Santa Barbara, just turned 90 last year. We are doing this exercise as a look ahead to see where our city is going to be at in the next 90 to 100 years. As members of this community, we're looking ahead to imagine what is possible in our city. And we can't do that without your participation, which is why we're so excited that everyone's on the call tonight. So thank you for being here. We're appreciative of everyone that took a part in the charrette and really appreciative of your interest tonight. So I'm excited for tonight and hope you are as well. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Matt, for that welcome.
Thank you, Deddy.
So, you know, this year, 2020, will no doubt go down in history as the year no one will ever forget. Our city is dealing with a confluence of 3 major crises: a worldwide pandemic, a dramatic economic crisis triggered in part by the pandemic, but also by the changing retail environment. And of course, we have a statewide housing crisis that affects every community in California, including Santa Barbara. In addition to that, we've got a social justice crisis casting a shadow over communities from coast to coast, and Santa Barbara is not immune. The impact of all the forces that are at play in this challenging year will reverberate for years to come. The confluence of these crises has created a watershed moment for our city. Not since the 1925 earthquake have we had events outside of our control create such profound conditions for change. So it's these unprecedented circumstances that have inspired the community, together with AIA Santa Barbara, the American Institute of Architects, to respond to this moment by organizing Design Charrette 2020 to help us and help the community generate a very exciting community vision for the future of downtown Santa Barbara. So now I'd like to ask Cass Ensberg to tell you more about what a charrette is and how the process works. Cass, take it away.
Thank you, Dedy. And again, welcome to everyone. We're so excited, all of us. Yeah, so everybody asked, what is a charrette? The definition of a charrette is an intense collaborative session of design or planning activity where stakeholders on a project come together to resolve conflicts and to map solutions. The word charrette has its origin in the 19th century at the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris, where architecture students worked furiously right into the last minute to study, illustrate, and present their designs and visions to the public. Here in Santa Barbara, AIASB has brought together architects, designers, landscape architects, planners, stakeholders, and a team of experts from multiple disciplines to participate in the Design Charrette 2020 for a burst of creative study to help envision Santa Barbara's future. So then you might ask, why do we need a charrette? The city of Santa Barbara recognizes the need for housing and has been working to change development standards to support housing and revitalization of Santa Barbara's urban core. Planning and zoning policies regulate development potential of properties and are carefully considered at city planning by city planning staff to give shape to the community's goals. Earlier this year, the city adopted a set of development standards to incentivize housing in our downtown. The consensus was that other important development standards that regulate size, bulk, and scale needed more study to determine the best approaches to regulation on those pieces. The charrette process is a powerful tool that architects use. And you remember we've done these before. The work provides design concepts and data to illustrate potential impacts to help inform decisions regarding changes to development standards, With input from city planners, city partners at Planning and Development, AIASB designed the Charrette 2020 specifically to study housing and the related open spaces, including State Street as a pedestrian promenade in our central business district and the historic El Pueblo Viejo. And with that, I will pass it on to Ellen.
Thank you, Cass. I will now talk about how the charrette was organized after Cass has so ably explained the reasons behind it and what it is. And we started the process back in January, organizing the basic ideas of what the charrette would be covering in terms of the program. Later on in the summer, we got around to doing a downtown community survey, which had a lot of questions about things like desirability of living downtown, parking needs that people perceive, and State Street as a promenade, since that was a new element in our community. The survey was sent out to the community through many organizations, and we received about 5,000 responses, providing invaluable information from the community to give that information to the design teams and guide their work. The charrette was conducted via a video conference, an unprecedented way of conducting a charrette. Before, we had always met in a high school gym and worked together in person, but this time it was all over video conference over the course of about 6.5 weeks. We concluded on September 24th. Throughout the process, the teams were organized and shared their ideas and sketches as they chose, and we had group check-in events every couple of weeks. To be as inclusive as possible, the charrette was broadcast widely to the design community for their participation, and the response was resounding. We had roughly 160 participants and formed 16 volunteer design teams to include a balance of architects, landscape architects, students, engineers, interior designers, and a broad range of other local experts. The teams also included individuals from Planning Commission, MTD, Coastal Housing Commission, Downtown SB, Coast, SB Bike, and a few other organizations. We also had a volunteer team of expert advisors, including city planning and transportation staff, representatives from the design review bodies, that would be ABR and HLC, property owners, and developers. These experts met with the design teams to help and advise them as needed. There were 12 design teams studying the 400 to 1,000 blocks of State Street. So this image you see shows numbered 1 through 6, the blocks from the 400 to the 1,000 blocks. Since we had so many participants, we had 2 teams on each of these 6 areas on the map. In addition to that, we had 4 teams across the top of what you see now, studying the entire corridor of State Street. Each one of these teams on the 2 block areas focused on incorporating housing through adaptive reuse of existing buildings. They looked at whether there were site opportunities on open parking lots and other underutilized areas. And they looked at outdoor spaces so that they would connect the pedestrian experience back to the State Street Promenade. Many of the groups also did detailed project statistics to demonstrate development potential of these sites and demonstrate feasibility. They also came up with recommendations about regulatory adjustments to accommodate the new vision of housing and open space. So with that, I'll hand it back. Thank you.
Cass.
Thank you, Ellen. So the next steps are to share the Charrette findings with decision makers, well, with all of you tonight, clearly, and to share these findings with decision makers, including City Council, Planning Commission, Design Review Boards, and the community at large. As a way to broadly share the work and the many ideas, an exhibit of the community vision expressed in the Charrette will be on display in store windows at the corner of State and Cannon Perdido. All of this outreach is designed to encourage discussion and help in the decision making to realize the housing we need to revitalize our downtown and to implement the changes in a signature Santa Barbara style, full of inspired creativity. Broad inclusivity and participation is encouraged and necessary as we work together to establish the development standards we need to continue to grow as the unique unique city Santa Barbara is widely known for. And with that, I'll hand it back to Debby.
Thank you, Cass. Check it out. There's a lot of people involved. 160 people is a lot of talented, passionate people who gave so much of their time voluntarily to produce this amazing work product that we're going to share with you tonight. So what we're going to do now is have each of the teams share their work product. They'll each have about 4 minutes to do that. And there may be several speakers for each team in some cases. I just want to ask your forgiveness in advance for any technical glitches that may come up. One of our dear committee members, Paul Rupp, reminds us of that. Grace is the word I think we can use. But I think all the teams are ready. They're prepared to show you their work, and we're going to go forward with that right now. I want to say one other thing, and that is that when we will be timing each one. Ellen is actually doing the timing,
Yep.
and there will be a hopefully gentle chime at the end of 4 minutes.
Would you all like to hear it? So you know what you're listening for?
Sure.
There we go.
Perfect. So that basically means, that you'll need to stop and finish your sentence and say your last words, and then we can move right on to the next team. I also wanted to mention that if for some reason there's a technical glitch with the team, we'll probably just go on to the next team after that and then come back to them. But I'm hoping that everything will go very smoothly here. And what we're going to do is start off with Team A, which is the State Street Corridor Team A. I'm going to stop sharing my window and provide the opportunity for Team A to share its screen.
Thank you, Debbie. The closing of State Street for the pandemic offers new design opportunities for enhancing the experience for pedestrians and minimizing conflicts with vehicles. Our charge was to revisit the State Street corridor. As the name indicates, State Street has evolved into a corridor, not a destination. Our proposal was to enhance the experience into a necklace of outdoor rooms comprised of focal points highlighting the specific character of each neighborhood. Old Town between the 300 and the 600 blocks, the Civic Center between the 700 and the 900 blocks, and the Arts District between the 1000 and the 1300 blocks. We closed various alternating half blocks with walk streets enhanced with landscape areas and bike racks. Key vehicular cross streets like Carrillo and Coda streets would be enhanced for traffic and pedestrian safety. The middle of State Street would be exclusively pedestrian friendly and child safe while providing focused bike and trolley access. By adding artisan kiosks, vendor stands, outdoor seating, public restrooms, and landscape features down the middle of State Street, our intention is to promote greater activity and foster residential and commercial development at the heart of Santa Barbara. Morgan?
These diagrams show where cars, buses, bikes can go and should not go. On the left delineates the existing vehicular circulation, and on the right shows our proposed closure of half blocks and selected cross streets. The yellow star denotes De La Guerra Plaza and reinforces this idea of the civic focal point for Santa Barbara. At the bottom left, the diagram shows bike circulation and rack locations. The diagram at the bottom right shows our proposed bus and trolley drop-off points that are never more than a 2-minute walk away from any part of State Street. Here are 4 site sections showing the varied pedestrian experiences up and down State Street. They include 3 views of the Arts District and 1 in Old Town. Justin?
Haley, Ortega, De La Guerra, Cannon Perdido, Figueroa, and Victoria Streets become half-block walk streets employing stormwater management strategies. The stormwater collected can help support the proposed landscape areas as well as minimize unwanted runoff. At each intersection of these walk streets, a specimen tree with perimeter seating in the middle of State Street will enhance the pedestrian-friendly environment free of automobiles. Each one would be different and would help reinforce the individual character of the neighborhood served. For example, Old Town has low arching trees that enclose the street, whereas the Civic Center might have tall columnar palm trees and sculptural trees, and the Arts District might have a variation of the two. Here's a site section through De La Guerra Plaza with a proposed grove of trees for a new park connecting to State Street. Ken?
Here's a drawing of the Carrillo Street intersection, including a plan view and perspective highlighting a primary vehicular cross street. It features special paving and 2 fountains. The next image shows Cannon Perdido and De La Guerra Plaza intersections. These are pedestrian-only half blocks showing landscaping, outdoor seating, public amenities, and bike storage. Also shown on the right is an aerial view of De La Guerra Plaza as the civic heart of Santa Barbara and a new shade park connecting to State Street with a bosque of trees. The last image shows an aerial view of State Street during Old Spanish days looking towards the coast. Please note the fountain as a special focal point at De La Guerra and State Street, and the addition of a children's water playground and the alley of remembrance. Beyond a new arcade extension to City Hall at De La Guerra Plaza is the Farmers Market. Note Ortega Street with its landmark specimen tree as the focal point for the Walk Street intersection, and Coda Street as a vehicular cross street just beyond. John?
In conclusion, this long-term view for Santa Barbara could be phased incrementally and will help promote the greater residential and commercial quality of life for generations ahead. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry.
Team B, we ready?
Ready.
Ready. Thank you for your curiosity, Team B corridor. We are currently, there we go, experiencing State Street with the benefit of no cars. But what we have not yet experienced is a reinvented State Street with higher density, buildings that share different uses and activities for residents and visitors. Imagine a beautiful parkway with elevated fountains, terraces, and piazzas for ceremonies and celebrations. We have an established community identity, one that we will not abandon, but we will expand upon this sense of place that we've created, and it will be flexible and adaptable for decades to come. Let us connect over our love and passion for this vibrant, reimagined promenade, and let us realize the necessity of this transformation for our economic future of our downtown. Our team vision is a transformed parkway and promenade for pedestrians and bike use only, one that fosters social interaction. Our primary design components of the corridor are wayfinding gateways that identify our different districts and the beginning of the promenade, a developed creek walk with restaurants along Mission Creek. We will connect Lower State Street and to the Funk Zone with the Sky Bridge. Where's our cool Sky Bridge? It's coming. There it is. And the underpass will be repurposed to a beautiful music garden pavilion. De La Guerra Plaza will be expanded and connected to State Street as our most prominent district. Sky bridges will connect our buildings for a multi-level interactive experience. Transportation hubs will be placed on the outskirts of town to remove the cars from the downtown area. And drumroll please, our big idea, the State Street Foundation. Mr. Paul Rupp is gonna chime in on that one. You there, Paul?
Is he unmuted?
He's coming in.
I could go ahead. Oops. I'll go ahead. The State
Okay,
Street
go ahead.
Foundation is the key to making our re-envisioned State Street a reality. Public spaces managed through a public-private partnership with the goal of financially being self-supporting is not a new idea. It's been seen in many examples, even in New York City, my old neighborhood, Bryant Park, Central Park, Westwood Park, and most recently the High Line, all conceived through a foundation and managed. Thoughtfully conceived designs, creative programming, smart management, and passionate stewardship can make our vision for our community self-supporting and even profitable. Before the High Line was going to be teared down, now this elevated garden parkway receives 5 million visitors and over $2 billion worth of economic investment in a place that nobody wanted to live in before. And here we have a beautiful street showing what it could become, where people want to live all year round and work there, play there, bring their family there. Today's cities across the country have joined in and applying the same model to their own neighborhoods, LA, Atlanta, Houston, LA. Why don't we do it in the road, people? Yes, Team B's vision for a grand road, uninterrupted linear parkway stretching from the waterfront to Nickel Arena will be completely self-supported with the State Street Foundation. A uniquely imagined public space will attract thousands of patrons wishing to experience its uniqueness, enchantment, today to benefit all and go beyond our expectations into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura Lee and Yvonne. I love that idea of the foundation. Really great, great work. On to Team C, Corridor, Team C.
Trying to unmute myself. Hi, I'm Fred Sweeney, part Team C. Team C discussed several possible ideas of the city's commerce and cultural history. We chose to take a block-by-block detailed study, starting with the Arlington block down to the intersection of State and Gutierrez. This approach identified the following major elements. State should remain the center of the city's activities by engaging and allowing for continual flexibility to respond to both in cultural and commercial activities. State should always embrace the cultural life of Santa Barbara, continuing to provide for the pageants and parades that have defined our community history and identity. The center of State should remain the location of multimodal movements, particularly focusing on the pedestrian experience, takes one up and down this incline to the ocean. Because of State Street's orientation to our Mediterranean sun, careful attention should be paid to both the sun side and the shade side of the streets so that users can encourage continued activity throughout the day and evening. Cross Street should be highlighted both in art and other visual cues to draw people to each of the distinct districts that line State Streets, such as the Arts District or the Presidio neighborhood. Certain blocks should be closed to automobile traffic, such as Anapamu, where the Library Plaza and museum areas can be expanded. Because State's interactive relationship with our client, a series of water management features is proposed to become essential in any long-term vision of the corridor. Finally, a major gesture should be made to make De La Guerra Plaza the city's living room, an integral part of the state. So we go to the slides, please. So Anapamu Street between Anacap and Chapala would enhance the experience of the Library Plaza and the museum by allowing space for outdoor dining, a dining cafe, along with space for additional areas for sculpture and other art installations. This suggested use of improvement would also place eyes on the plaza. We have acknowledged the need to accommodate bus routes in the MTD. The idea of a curve in State Street allows for the geometry. Building to building will allow for several configurations. We propose the center to be concentrated on public transport up and down State Street with adjoining bicycle lanes and pedestrian walking areas in front of storefronts. Also a scheme to allow restaurants to have dining areas immediately designated in the front of their stores. All of these schemes are centered on universal design access.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to jump in and talk about an extended use on State Street, permeable paving, development of stormwater pods for each block near the intersections where possible, and small water features integrated with public art or standalone water, pedestrian scale water features. Can we go to the next slide? The next slide, please. Next.
There we go.
And we're also contemplating water filtration for reuse. A real world example would be the Santa Monica Smurf or a large filtration system integrated into a sunken garden for retention and further use for irrigation. The sheet also shows possible sea level defense systems for the future in the likely case that seawater intrusion and higher tides will occur in the next 30 to 100 years. And that's all. Thank you for listening to our concepts.
Thank you, Fred and Robert. I feel like I went for a wonderful walk all the way up State Street here. So we'll go on to State Street Corridor Team D, but before we start, I want to remind everyone in the audience, as many of you already know this, but we look forward to seeing any comments that you have or questions. We'll try to compile those later. We're going to save them. And if we can, we'll try to answer those questions as well for you. So feel free to add your notes to the chat mode. All right, Team D.
All right, thank you, Deddy. This is Roxana Bonderson representing Team D. So a redesign State Street plays a very significant and central role in the revitalization of downtown Santa Barbara. It is vital in envisioning a future of downtown because the street itself acts as the spine that runs through our downtown center, connecting the two sides of the street and the different districts, which make up the fabric of our city. Our group, Corridor Team D, focused on making State Street into a park-like experience, adding landscaping, greenery, and open spaces. We focused on how to enhance the uniqueness of each block and to provide solutions to maintain their distinct identities that those people before us have worked so hard to create. Our goal is to encourage variety along State Street and develop a pedestrian experience to support that distinct identity, offering the visitor multiple activities and experiences that would support unity, variety, inclusion, and accessibility for all users. We propose a downtown experience that is diverse, something for everyone, locals and tourists, future residents who will live in the CBD, all ages, families, young adults, professionals, children and teens, and the elderly. All forms of movement and accessibility, such as walking, biking, driving in, and improved public transportation. State Street should include a wide range of economical options, and options should be available throughout the day and into the night. Examples include strolling, dining, hanging out, business and commerce, family activities, nightlife, and entertainment for all. Our landscape proposals are used not only for aesthetic value, but as active and visually pleasing stormwater management solutions and meet safety protocols. We also introduced new plants, fountains, and trees with large canopies to enhance that feeling and scale of the street. We recognized a need for an entry point into our downtown, and we introduced an entryway at the beginning of the 300 block as one arrives into downtown, entering into the State Street Promenade from the waterfront, the train station area, the Funk Zone in particular. And it was important for us to provide definition in order to inspire a formal gateway into this pedestrian experience. A secondary entry point could also be provided at the opposite end of the promenade at the 1000 block. The primary focal point of our team's proposal is the introduction of a prominent public plaza on what would be the former site of a removed Macy's building. An open space at this location would intricately connect to the existing system of pedestrian paseos and work harmoniously with the important Plaza de la Guerra that is tucked away off of State Street just around the corner. As the only real American Riviera, we want to pay homage to the European Rivieras that inspire us. The inspiration for such a plaza is taken from various European cities where public open spaces within a historic downtown provide a setting for special events, performances, and various civic activities. This type of space can offer the qualities of a gathering place in contrast to the inherent linear movement of street traffic. And of course, encourage a central point where paseos come together and public events can take place. The proposed plaza at the corner of Ortega and State is located right in the middle of the promenade, and it is in the heart of historic buildings and spaces. It features water elements such as traditional central fountain, as well as dry fountains that welcome visitors in off the street, a raised multi-use performance platform at the southwest end of the space, and shade trees, palms, and other landscape elements. It would also revitalize Paseo Nuevo. Not only will a clear gateway to downtown and a vibrant central gathering space increase business and support commerce along State Street, but it will increase the sense of community, encourage connections, and provide a true heart to the center of the promenade and Santa Barbara as our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxana. That was very inspiring. Thank you so much. All right, now we're going to move on to the block by block presentation, starting with the 400 block, Team A.
All right, thanks, Debbie. Our team looked at the 400 block of State Street as well as public space opportunities in the 300 block, which includes public parking lot 12 and Sevilla Square. We felt it was important to connect the city's waterfront, Funk Zone, and train station to the rest of State Street and the downtown corridor. So we came up with the following focus areas, which were creating connectivity, making better use of underutilized space, opportunity for paseos and public spaces, and support for businesses to serve residents. Next slide. So the underpass serves as a connection point between the Funk Zone, waterfront, and train station, but it's not widely used by pedestrians. So reducing the street to 2 lanes, increasing pedestrian space, and adding art and other pedestrian scaled interests to this area would help encourage increased use. Next slide. And we also saw parking lot 12 as an opportunity to become a multi-level underground garage so that a significant amount of space at the street level would become available to serve the community in the form of much needed green space.
Continuing our vision for re-energizing this section of State Street, we proposed closing State Street here, creating increased pedestrian flow, outdoor dining, and bike paths. Keeping trolley service in the middle of the street would increase access options up and down State Street and would provide loading and trash service options during off hours for the businesses. A roundabout at the Gutierrez State Street intersection would help redirect traffic, and featured art would create the transition to a pedestrian block. Hand in hand with closing State Street, we propose a network of paseos and pocket public areas, creating a variety of spaces for everything from gathering and eating to shopping and entertainment. This increase in public spaces would create a symbiotic support relationship between the residents and commercial uses. Sustainability is a key part of the redesign equation. Increased green space from the parklet, solar panels in parking lots, green roofs, and rooftop decks with gardens would all provide sustainable elements and improve the quality of life for our residents.
Someone may be on mute.
Sorry about that. This site was chosen as it is directly tied to many of the ideas that we aimed to employ in our process for this block. Earlier on, we had looked at stepping back our massing to improve the human scale, utilizing roof decks, providing balconies, engaging the street front, creating creative parking solutions, and preserving commercial space at the street level for the residents who are bringing into the area. This project is 4 stories with 1 level of commercial space and 3 levels of residential parking is provided in an existing alley using stacking parking machines to conserve property. The ground floor features a large covered patio space for outdoor dining and music, as well as several tenant rental spaces. The building has 24 residential units, 6 1-bedroom and 18 studios, ranging from 400 to 600 square feet each. They have all been provided with private balconies. Although this very narrow site makes that a bit of a challenge, we've managed to do that. And there's also a large shared amenity rooftop deck with a cabana for the residents to host gatherings or have activities. It's estimated to be about 55 feet high, but steps back to soften the streetscape.
Thank you, Jesse. This is the last opportunity site that we focused on. We envisioned independent senior housing above what is currently the 99-cent store parking lot. This project is meant to address the need for senior housing, which is estimated to climb in is estimated to be 50%. There's a demand, sorry, there's an anticipated need for senior housing up to 50% in the next 10 years. So this is addressing it, 54 units. I know we're out of time, so thank you all. Thank you, team.
Thank you very much, Matt and team. Great presentation. So we'll move along to team B, 400 block team B.
Hi, Daddy. This is Brian and Rushita. We are the 400 block, and it really is a gateway to State. We absolutely believe that the promenade should start here, just like the team we were just looking at. And to do that, Gutierrez needs to change its direction from 1-way to 2-way, but that connection at that point down to the waterfront via the underpass, where we heartily endorse the plan to make that a vibrant space. And then the promenade again starts in this very important 400 block, which is really, you know, visually it's a gateway even from the freeway looking down State Street. We can see from this image here that there is currently a lot of residential development on the left there along Chapala, but there's very little along Anacapa, and we see a lot of opportunity to balance this block and create much more housing in what is an underdeveloped area. Next slide. This just shows the historic buildings that are within our block, and then this shows that circulation that is currently one way and would change to two way to allow that Gutierrez State Street intersection to be the roundabout element that was talked about. Next slide. So this is basically where we're showing existing buildings. Proposed buildings are in orange. Our team felt strongly that there should be central small parklets that would be mid-block, and thought in terms of concentrating the density for the most part in the middle of the block, but also, as was suggested, the 99-cent store. We looked at a balance of floor area ratios to substitute for the current process, and that would yield, you know, potentially you could have up to 300 units in this block. Next slide. Next slide. So this shows some of the massing and the notion of green roofs on these buildings. And then finally, before I turn it over to Rushita, a concept project that today would require a lot of merging of parcels. But in this scheme, which would represent, if it didn't have to merge parcels, an FAR of about 2.8, yields what we believe is an effective project that has an average unit size of around 700 square feet and is concentrated mid-block along Gutierrez, so that really from State Street, it does not impact. Rushita?
Proposed new State Street section creates additional space for outdoor flex spaces, pedestrian arcades, shared lanes between pedestrians, bicycle path, and emergency vehicles, and bioretention swells. Proposing swells is a sustainable solution supporting a wide range of plantings to increase beneficial habitat, greens, and greenscape. The closure of 400th block offers an invitation to the pedestrians and cyclists approaching from the underpass, becoming the first of many segments of pedestrian-only spaces in downtown. With the the town's main thoroughfare, State Street, has been the route through which history, people, and events have entered and shaped downtown Santa Barbara. The closure of 400 block creates an opportunity to enhance existing spaces and complements in shaping the new public promenade. Alleyways and patios located through the 400 block of State Street meant for pedestrian access to the surface parking lots may be well used and hold much more potential for more vibrant and complementing use. Active patios can provide interactive and attractive environment. The redesigning of patios not only form a hub of activity, but also creates linkage to the rest of the State Street and downtown. The downtown Santa Barbara lacks the usable green and open spaces needed for potential residential growth. Provision of green roofs and open spaces create an opportunity for amalgamation of different spaces, function, circulation, and helps benefiting towards the heat island reduction. The proposed design accommodates a combination of private, semi-private, and public open spaces at multi-levels for residents and visitors to explore and enjoy a view of Santa Barbara from a higher vantage point. Thank you. Brian, do you want to add anything?
Let's go on to the 500 block.
Thank you so much, you two. And by the way, Brian has joined us today, I believe, from somewhere in rural Oregon, which underscores the amazing
by satellite. So that's why I turned my video off.
Hi all, my name is Rachel Rayner. I'm representing Team A 500 block, and this is the block in between Coda and Haley,
Right now, it is the end of the street closure, and it's already a pretty active area, which we wanted to take into account and just note the successful existing businesses down there. So we kind of actually focused on the adjacent areas on the opposite sides of the block. And so, yeah, I will dive into our presentation. If it wasn't clearly said before, we were kind of given 3 projects to look at, one being State Street and then 2 additional or above that. And so I'm going to touch on our 3 projects today. We have some inspiration images that kind of inspired us at the beginning of this process. I know as a newcomer to the area, it was a great opportunity to really dive in and understand this commercial center and core. I liked how someone defined it as our spine, and I think that's really an integral analogy. Here are just some design kind of massing ideas and concepts to kind of understand what we were proposing. Our first project is the State Street core corridor rather, and it kind of was our guiding point where we leapt into our other 2 projects. We kind of oriented what's existing, what we wanted to stay. The black outlines are either existing or potentially significant historical structures, as noted by the city. A couple other goals that we wanted to accomplish with this program was a center bicycle lane that also acted as fire access and a route for parades or other similar type of events, with bollards at either end of the block to prevent unwanted users to access that. And then we also wanted to separate the pedestrian sidewalks and put those in the center. So that way the adjacent outdoor seating was adjacent to the restaurant itself. And so there was limited conflict areas. In the interest of time, I'm going to hop to our next project, which is an infill project at City Lot 11, city parking lot. So it's a surface parking lot. We have about 80 residential units proposed there with subterranean parking to service that below, with an outdoor space, 4 stories. And that would be about a rental FAR of 2.93. Our goal was to hit the 2 mark, so we sufficiently met that. The third project was an adaptive reuse project at the corner of Haley and Anacapa. It was also 4 stories with about 31 residential units ranging from 400 to 450 square feet, and 6 commercial spaces as well, ranging from about 350 to 675 square feet, with a roof deck on top to serve the residential units and reaching a rental FAR of 1.43. Some additional focus areas that we wanted to emphasize with our presentation and on our block were prioritizing affordable housing to align with the inclusionary housing required by the city's recently approved AUD ordinance, encouraging spaces for public art installations, encouraging access for the public, so you didn't have to be a patron of one of the retail, commercial, or restaurant spaces down on State Street. Also utilizing art, science, and technology to encourage tourism and activity downtown. And with that, I think I'm out of time. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Great presentation. Thank you, Rachel. So we're on to Team B, 500 block.
Hello, Santa Barbara. Okay. So my name is Matt Grice. I'm Team 2B, 500 block. So we feel the best bet for creating long-term economic and cultural sustainability downtown has as much to do with redefining the commercial use of this area as it does with adding more housing units. Although it is critically important to resolve our housing crisis, in order to successfully prepare for the unknown challenges we're going to face in the next 20, 50, or 100 years, we must also develop the means to support and sustain livelihoods at the local level. We should all recognize that housing and livelihood must go hand in hand. Now, the reality is a lot of added housing means a lot of new people. And so this means we all have to provide plenty of new open and public spaces. This calls for innovation. The future of downtown depends on rethinking our open spaces in order to capture all the wonderful synergies that come from combining residential, commercial, and public activities into a single interdependent cultural landscape. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lane Goodkind, who led the conceptualization of our overall site plan. Sorry, I should scroll through some of these. This is our whole maker's block.
Matt, we're not seeing any of your screen right now.
I see a little watch indicating that your computer is working to show the screen. You might want to escape and reset it.
Oh, man. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to reshare. Boom.
There we go.
Yeah, you got it?
Yes, great.
Okay, I got my time back. Anyway, so this is the overall maker's block. And this is showing where we're taking advantage of all the areas. And I'm going to hand it over to Lane Goodkind, who's going to explain the whole master site plan to this. Lane, you there?
She put a message in the chat that she can't unmute.
Well, Lane's a gentleman.
Oh, sorry.
I thought we were getting that Jasper was going to get that fixed. He said that he had him on as a panelist.
Yeah, should be working. But Matt, why don't you continue and see if
I'm going to skip forward and let Lane. Maybe we could figure out Lane's issue and then backtrack. But he did a terrific job with a few other landscape architects.
Okay, thank you. It was just updated.
Nice.
Okay. Matt, please. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So the large block size of the downtown area leaves some surrounding blocks too isolated in our view from pedestrian activity of the State Street core. So our concept seeks to create 7 blocks out of 3 by expanding and accentuating paseos and transforming existing vehicular spaces to park space. A new paseo bisects the projects east to west with feature park spaces at each end from east to west. Within each new block, a vibrant new retail core with outdoor amenities is thus created. State Street would then become a linear parkway with an abundance of outdoor dining and maximum flexibility to accommodate parades, farmers market, and other activities. But primarily, the new use of outdoor dining was the main focus. The west side, the east sidewalk, can you stay on that slide? Thanks, Matt. The east sidewalk is modeled after Parisian brasserie, filled with similar furnishings and awnings to create a cohesive experience. And the west side is more varied, with the majority of the restaurants given outdoor dining in the backyard towards the west. The more active bars to the north are slightly divided from the dining on the south by the paseo and wider parkway there. 2 staging areas are provided on the north and south for periodic interactive art exhibition pieces at the gateway to the block on the north and south. So we've created sort of a State Street eco parkway that seeks to form a new type of urbanism with a focus fostering a collective stewardship of natural resources. The large parkways on the east and west of the main corridor would provide meaningful ecological benefits, filtering stormwater for the entire block and providing diversity of plant and animals, plant life, plant and species diversity. The central courtyard, could you go back, Matt?
Sorry.
Thanks. The central court on the right-hand side is newly repurposed parking area activated with a vibrant mix of restaurant and retail at the ground floor, similar to the what the courthouse sunken garden might serve as, with retail surrounded by it. The backyard is meant to be a repurposing of the back of house and inefficient parking areas into a diverse mix of beer gardens, outdoor bistros, and small pop-up movie venues and live music. So the large open space provides welcome accommodation for food truck culinary events and large catered private parties. Each restaurant space would receive a leasable outdoor space to relieve demand on COVID-related outdoor dining on State Street. And back to Matt.
Okay, I guess I'll skip over these guys. Okay, let's talk about the buildings we did, the architecture here. The Maker's Block is ultimately about making a sustainable community. So in addition to making products and services, we also need to make families downtown. We need to make food, our own food. We We need things like daycare or even bike care. So from this perspective, the goal is in proposing new housing opportunities is more about exploring how our block could ideally be occupied, what types of residential units are needed, what mixture of other uses can best supplement the livelihoods that follow, and then figuring out the ideal planning parameters from which future downtown architecture might get proposed. So we've illustrated 2 unique building typologies, both live-work that examine how all this might get blended together. Our opportunity site, we have the Keep, which is a U-shaped, double-loaded corridor, multifamily and mixed-use building fronting Anacapa Street and Haley Street. Across the site, we have the Change, an adaptive reuse atop and behind the existing commercial tenant building on Coda Street. In short, the Keep is intended for a bit older and more financially grounded group of individuals and families. The Change is intended for a younger, hungrier group who could happily make their start living in micro units. Both buildings combine to provide an ideal mixture of occupancies and uses for our makers block. We're thinking workforce housing, light manufacturing, digital fabrication and software engineering, daycare, food commissary, kitchen, even an art resident program. So in conclusion, whether you're young or old, keeper of traditions or part of the avant-garde, as a resident of the makers block, you should understand what it means to be an integral member of your local community. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Very exciting vision. Michael Holliday, we're on to Team 3A 600 block.
Great. Thank you, Danny. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. Looks good.
Okay, thank you. So thank you. My name is Michael Holliday. We're representing the 600 block of Team A, and myself along with Andrew Gardner will be presenting tonight. So our goal again is to reinvent, repurpose, reinvigorate, and reimagine the downtown area focused on this 600 block. To do this, we looked at, we came up with this acronym of EDGE. We love the idea of educational opportunities in the downtown core, covering everything from daycare to K through 6, junior high, senior high, even college and postdoc. So we felt like all of these educational opportunities need to be integrated in the downtown core. Design-driven downtown environment was really the key to a tactile design expression, along with the green paseos and this exceptional integration of housing in the downtown core. Show you, this is a sort of pictorial vision. Several of us have spent quite a bit of time in Copenhagen recently. This is an image on the upper right that shows how you can have ground floor residents serving retail and commercial with housing above, along with downtown integral green spaces integrated with art projects by local artisans. This is a housing image that shows how housing can be integrated into the downtown core. And on our block, we've actually got the unique opportunity of the Metro 4 Theater. So we really thought that could be a beautiful 3-dimensional interactive art project. Rooftop gardens are kind of a consistent theme I've heard from other presenters. So this just gives you a sense for how we could start to use our rooftops in a really beautiful way. And then this last image just shows how these typically warehouse kind of generic buildings can become beautiful environments for the downtown area. I'm going to let Andrew talk a little bit more about the Lions building, which was our adaptive reuse project. These are some images of Copenhagen that just show that right out on the streetscape, this is how Europe uses the streetscape and how the pedestrians can activate the downtown core. Andrew?
Our design team has created a readaptive program for the Lions building with different income opportunities. The buildings will house the Educational Institute for Innovation, and the programs will include art, music, culinary arts, science, and technology. On the top floors, we've designed student housing, and in the adjacent warehouse building, we have included light industrial, artisan work-live spaces with a retail storefront. On the bottom of the first floor is a restaurant and retail, and on the second floor, rooftop garden and art installations. We've designed a second-story pedestrian bridge, which will provide connections to the rooftop restaurant, Metro 4 Theater, parking and new housing conversions for the new Cost Plus Ward Market building. And below the pedestrian bridge on the ground level is a cultural performance stage with live music and theater performances. Michael can now talk to you about the new conversion of the World Plus Market.
We took this as our downtown site and looked at maximizing housing on this downtown location. And we ended up with a 2.3 FAR approximately, but this shows our ground level paseo connecting Straight Street, backside urban kind of garden space. The levels 2 through 4, we kind of came up with a donut-shaped housing situation with an open atrium that opens down through these top areas, and then a rooftop garden area. This is a section that shows how that building might be worked out, and we all fit within the 60-foot height limit limited by Santa Barbara. So it just shows you how you can let natural light all the way down, even through glass block, into the downtown first floor area. This last image by my partner Ryan Mills just shows how beautiful this could be conceived in the traditional Santa Barbara Spanish colonial architecture. Thank you so much on behalf of our entire team.
Fantastic, Michael. Very, very exciting vision. We're on to team 3B, 600 block. I think you're going to have to unshare here first.
Okay.
Here we go. Are we ready there with 600 block B?
We're here.
Go for it.
Okay, let's go to the right slide. Okay, this is our first initial study of this 600 block. And like much of the other teams, we identified the corridor connecting Paseos, and with this diagram here, you're really seeing what we were identifying as like max build out. And then from there, we started carving away area that we could start introducing both public green space, both on top of existing buildings and on existing surface parking. And the images on the right here just start showing kind of look and feel and how we can start addressing these 4-story buildings within this existing context. I'll go to the next slide and I'll let Ellen start discussing more of this breakdown of the potential housing development of this 600 block.
Right, so we really analyzed every parcel bit by bit, acknowledging that there are a lot of very small, very narrow, long parcels along State Street, and discovered that when you do housing, you need a certain amount of open space incorporated so that you have the light and air that's required by code. So this is one sheet of the analysis that we did, showing how many units we could add if we were to add 3 stories on top of existing commercial. And we got, as you see here, in excess of 400 units per block. So I thought that was a pretty interesting data point. Back to you, Justin.
Thanks, Ellen. I will show the 3 building potentials that we came up with. Our first building that we thought was very important to the site is the Fithion building. And our proposal is to add the additional 2 floors that were removed after the earthquake, because it's such a signature building, and it also supported the addition of this street. You can see this street elevation of the Pierce block buildings, how we could start then going with a 4-story building to start enhancing the State Street experience while maintaining the historic character of State Street. So that's where these 2 projects kind of tie together, and you can start seeing what we get with our FAR of just the Fithion building of 3.8 with an additional 60 residential units and maintaining the existing commercial on the first floor. And so this is kind of our historic presentation of the block. And then our other site that we decided was the Lion building. We wanted to do an adaptive reuse, but at the same time, utilize the existing parking lot and build that out with this more modern, futuristic building. This was a look at what would happen potentially in 50 years. And this is taking cues from like a vertical garden building that would have ties to images that you see of the Riviera of Santa Barbara. And even though it is aggressive, we feel that it does showcase this existing Lion building and still can make connections and introduces more of a civic scale to downtown Santa Barbara. And then again, we would build out over the top of that existing parking with adding more residential and reconfiguring that parking ramp into automated parking structure to increase the car parking load that we can put on that. We could get 400 parking spaces, so we could park this entire side of the block with this one parking structure.
All right, Justin, I think your time's
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was really great. Now we're going on to the 700, 800 block, Team 4A.
Hi, I'm Paul Poirier. Our team studied the 700 and 800 blocks between Chapala and Anacapa streets. This is the heart of Santa Barbara, containing City Hall, De La Guerra Plaza, and the Paseo Nuevo Shopping Center. We identified these opportunity areas, residential development, adaptive reuse, open space, and connectivity, and came up with many, many ideas. We had a super creative group, and we generated a lot of work on this thing. The next slide, please. So on the left is the existing floor plan, ground floor plan of the Paseo Nuevo. So you can see the network of pedestrian paseos and the existing De La Guerra Plaza on the right, the U shape, where City Hall is. And on the right is our proposed plan. We proposed a new Paseo Cielo serving 2 new levels of upper housing and art spaces on top of the existing Paseo Nuevo with this new Paseo Cielo weaving in and out over, not exactly stacking over the lower Paseo, but kind of creating this new Paseo level. So and De La Guerra Plaza on the right, we also were going to make that much larger so it had a bigger connection to State Street. And these opportunity sites are these green areas on the top. So I'll turn it over to Stephanie to talk about the residential development.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Poole. Our inspiration started with the historic courtyard apartments of the 1920s by the Zwabels. And more recent versions of this style by Moule and Polyzoides increased building heights to 4 and 5 stories while maintaining livability. Page 4. We liked the Gensler's proposal for Nordstrom from 2018, incorporating residential units surrounding a courtyard on the upper 2 levels above commercial. So we demonstrated this same approach for the 2nd and 3rd floors of Macy's. Page 5. Rosenka Gardens were designed around the preservation of Madame Rosenka's and complements a nearby historic landmarks and preserved paseos. We also applied the courtyard concept to a denser type of affordable housing units called De La Guerra micro units. Page 6. These would be in the heart of downtown's parking benefit zone with no associated parking, but within proximity to several public lots. Micro units are typically 300 square feet each. Page 7. We proposed maximizing the floors above Howard Canfield building with micro units around an interior courtyard. Incorporating these ideas about courtyards and community will hopefully infuse vitality into a uniquely downtown neighborhood.
Great. Thank you. Good evening. I'm Haley Kolosecki, and I'll be presenting our adaptive reuse components, starting with the Paseo Cielo or Skywalk concept. So this is a 2nd-story paseo with beautiful staircases, grand bridges, and rooftop spaces that would connect the existing commercial uses to the new residential sites that Stephanie just walked us through. So we've identified a mixed-use opportunity site in the top right corner in the center of Paseo Nuevo, which would serve as mixed use, so retail on the bottom floor and then residential on the top floors. And then here is a closer look at Paseo Cielo and all of the access points. So the iconic pedestrian bridges over the heart of State Street would connect Paseo Nuevo to the historic landmarks, housing opportunity sites, and De La Guerra Plaza on the mountainside. And in the top corner, you'll see a rendering of one of these bridges connecting city parking lot and the mixed-use building that was previously Nordstrom. So in addition to new rooftop coffee shops and restaurants, we would also transform the underutilized upper level of the Paseo Nuevo parking lot into a community center for art shows, performances, and live music.
So the new Paseo Cielo rooftop skywalk will provide opportunities for rooftop gardens in our unique historical context. Slide 13. So we recommended one-way traffic on Canon Perdido and Ortega to make a clockwise circulation around this city center. And it would allow us to put 90-degree parking on Ortega and Canon Perdido and widen the sidewalks in these areas for additional seating. Next. De la Guerra Plaza would be expanded to have more significant connection to State Street with a permanent farmers market structure located here. See our 49-page full presentation online for a vision of Santa Barbara 100 years into the future, which optimizes our many unique opportunities from historic resources to a love of the outdoors, to our commitment to sustainability in all of the context of our excellent weather here in Santa Barbara. Thank you very much, and our team had an enjoyable time putting this presentation together.
Fantastic, Paul. There's some very creative ideas there. Very exciting. So we're on to 700, 800 block, Team B, 4B.
Yes, hello there. My name is Harvey Malich. I'm a non-architect, but someone who's been close to the architectural issues. Our team engaged in the same set of blocks, the historic, containing much of the historic core of Santa Barbara. And some of the ideas you will have already heard from some of the other teams. The effort is to take advantage of and preserve and to further enhance and reinforce the traditions of Santa Barbara that we all are very, very familiar with. But to recreate and institute certain complementarities that will enhance all the assets, cultural, that are there. Housing is, of course, a priority, and in the schemes that you're now going to see by some of my colleagues in detail, will show you that a total of 340 new housing units are anticipated, with retail shifting, decreasing in total square footage, but shifting to be more appropriate for current patterns. You will see that there is lower dependence on cars and that there is increase of open space, plazas, rooftops, and opening the views of the mountains so that they become part of the downtown area. Kim, take it, please. Kim?
Okay, in consideration of promoting a high quality of life with the increased residential density, we carefully considered how to create a vibrant community space to support the revitalization of smaller scale retail and create a 24-hour charming village environment for residents and visitors alike. Interventions include widening sidewalks along Chapala Street, extending the flagstone paving from El Paseo into Paseo Nuevo and south through De la Guerra Plaza. We're also proposing to close De la Guerra Street to create the De la Guerra Promenade. De la Guerra Plaza is the hidden diamond in the rough of Santa Barbara. We are proposing to remove several existing buildings and extend De la Guerra Plaza into State Street and add a City Hall annex, which provides several levels of parking, city offices, and retail along the plaza edge under an elegant arcade, creating an adaptable, flexible community space with an elevated stage. Mountain views, solar shade panels, and an ornate, colorful water jet plaza invites people into the plaza and creates a vibrant and important civic space, which highlights the history of Santa Barbara. Dennis?
In our search for housing opportunities on the site, we started with the Balboa building. That's the large 6-story building at the corner of State and De la Guerra on the right in this rendering. It's got 5 stories of offices now, and when those offices become less attractive for rental because many of us are working at home, This building converts perfectly to small apartments. We were able to achieve 700 1- and 2-bedroom apartments in this site, and as well as developing a rooftop vegetation and rooftop solar trellises. At the center of this rendering, we added a new 4-story building that would be nearly invisible from State Street. That also adds about 40 housing units. On the next slide, we've got the corner. Oh, these are floor plans of those two. And on the next slide, we see the building at the corner of Canna Perdido and State is the Howard Canfield building. It's a 2-story building now. And like the other team, we would add at least 2 stories of housing to it, gaining another 32 units. Now, Marcus.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, without going over some of the common elements with the other team on this site, our goal was to develop a diverse collection of housing and also to kind of open this site to the streets. The buildings are very closed off to the streets, and to leverage the assets that this site has, which include underground parking, almost 300 spaces, and a podium that you see here that the last team talked about putting civic activities on. So this is a housing proposal for the corner of Chapala and Ortega that on top of the parking that was developed by Jeff Hornbuckle. And this proposal has, let's see, 116 units of housing. And these are micro and studio sized units, if you call that workforce housing, with a courtyard in the middle and a green deck, another common element you see on the roof. Next, please. So we also kind of followed the notion that Gensler has started with the Nordstrom's building to have a large retail component potentially on the lower level and then housing on top. Kim, could you go back real quick to, okay. One thing about these buildings, just to the first slide, please. There you go, is that they're steel frame buildings. And so it's very easy constructionally to cut large openings into those. And the idea behind the, again, opening to the street on the Nordstrom building is to create enclosed porches on the second level, retail on the first level, and then balconies and decks on the third level with a green courtyard. Next. So this is the first floor, and uses such as a grocery store, an art space, other retail on the first floor, and a new paseo that our team thought of connecting Chapala Street, wider sidewalks so that Chapala Street is animated by this renovation. Next. And you kind of see the idea here. We kind of took off from what Gensler had started, and showing that at the roof level, there are green decks that have significant views and balconies that look down and connect with the Paseo Nuevo retail. Next. The centerpiece of this project as well is looking at making a hotel out of Macy's. It's not really wide enough to get a good residential yield of units, but it can offer about 92 to 100 hotel units. And again, opening up the walls so there's connection to the street. Next slide. And there's your 92 units, 2 stories with an interior atrium and a rooftop bar, which would have views of the ocean. So in all, 339 units of housing on the site, plus a hotel, which is an income generator. So there's a sustainability from an economic standpoint built into our proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Some great ideas there. We've got 5 presentations left, and we're gonna really try to stick to the time. And if you need a little stretch, you can always turn off your video and stand in front of your computer and stretch while you're listening. So we're on to team 5A of the 900 block, 900 block A.
Okay, thank you, Detti. Hi, we are representing the 900 block Team A. My name is Jolie Waugh, and presenting with me tonight is Carl Cross, Blake Hertz, and Yvonne Chin. The 900 block of State Street is bordered by Carrillo, Canon Perdido, Anacapa, and Chapala. In our analysis, we noted that this block is actually very well established. We have 3 landmark buildings, including the Libero Theater, and 7 listed and potential structures of merit as well, and the Canary Hotel. So our goal was to determine locations within this established block for new construction, for residential housing, and adaptive reuse. We looked at 2 possible options. The first option is considering the existing surface parking on Canon Perdido across from Nordstrom and converting that into a central green space. And we considered surrounding this with a new 4-story residential structure, the adaptive reuse of the existing Schwab building as possibly an educational facility, either adult education or K-12 or extended learning, and fronting the parking structure too with possibly stacked micro units that could form a sculptural facade to act as an art piece as well as provide additional housing. So basically creating a neighborhood of sorts around this green. Our second option in this block, in this neighborhood, was the next option was that we noted that we had the presence of the Libero Theater and the Metro Theaters as well within our block. And we noted that on the other block, the other major large theaters along State Street, the Arlington and the Granada, that these provided opportunities for entertainment nodes and restaurants and shops and gathering venues. We decided to further develop this new entertainment node for State Street, incorporating the Libero Theater. We proposed to do this with a pedestrian forecourt by closing off Canon Perdido at either end at Anacapa and Chapala, providing drop-offs there, and proposing a 4-story structure on the corner of Anacapa and Carrillo to provide new residents to activate this area, as well as using adaptive reuse of the Marshall's buildings to possibly use as mixed-use residential or a sports center, perhaps. And then lastly, at parking lot 9, we thought that this might be a really great opportunity to provide a rooftop garden / entertainment venue, as well as possibly a mercado on one of the floors to really create an active entertainment node to work with post or pre-event or post-event venues for the theaters, as well as working with the new residents in this area. Our study explored the designs for this scheme a little further, and my fellow teammate, Carl, will present that, our residential new construction opportunity.
Thanks, Shelley. After analyzing the block, our team concluded that the corner of Carrillo and Anacapa is a great opportunity for new workforce housing. Slide on the upper left shows the existing site featuring an existing 1-story drive-through bank, which isn't the best opportunity for that use of space. So a new 34,000 square foot, 4 to 5 story housing project in this location fits well within the context of that neighborhood that features the Libero Theater, the Libero building across the street, and the Masonic Temple. All buildings are over 55 feet in height. The goal of the downtown housing is always to balance the exterior of the building with its connection to the city, with the privacy of its occupants. And that goal led us to a courtyard scheme that you can see some of them in the imagery right here. Next slide, please.
This one?
Yes. So that's the first floor that really kind of looks at the model of a courtyard scheme with the first floor and the connection from the street to the courtyard. Next, please. The second and third floor consists of residential, while the top floor kind of breaks down the massing with smaller units that have access to the mountain and city views. Next slide, please. And you can see the connection, the section through there that shows the connection from the left to the street into the courtyard. And courtyard schemes provide interior and exterior connections, ample windows to provide occupants with views, natural ventilation, and sunlight. They provide both privacy and access to nature, and they make social connections and spaces. And also the courtyard is a good way to mitigate stormwater.
Carl, I apologize, but your time is up. If you can end your presentation. Thank you very much. Very excellent presentation. Thank you.
Next slides, please. Thank you.
All right. So we still have time for, sorry, is our whole thing up or is this?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My apologies for interrupting, but you've gone over the time limit and we still have some more presentations to do. Thanks very much. Moving on to 900 block Team B.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Jan Hockhauser and Cass Edensberg, ready to share our presentation with you. And I'm just looking for the full screen here. And so we're very excited about what we have to share with everybody tonight. So much of what we've done and studied is synonymous with so many other comments and presentations to date. We focused in on these two blocks and found ourselves amidst a lot of great historical resources. Libero Theater, the Baylor Building, the Post Office, the Canary Hotel. So in terms of size, bulk, and scale, this was a fertile place to deliver housing to the downtown, and the interstitial spaces between these significant historical structures presented themselves as opportunities to find solutions to deliver housing and enrich the interstitial space at the ground level through a network of paseos and plazas. You know, a lot of these paseos and plazas were not really conceived or were not carefully linked to one another to create the opportunities that would really enrich the pedestrian experience. So part of our exercise with all the different team members is we kind of assigned different components of these blocks to be challenged and studied by the various mini teams within our overall team. So for instance, the corner at East Carrillo and Anacapa, Alex Peugeot designated that parking area with the drive-through teller as the Ana Carrillo exercise and delivered a housing solution to take advantage of the resource of that parking field and use it for a much more valuable civic function of both housing and commercial space. And likewise, at the corner of Canon Perdido and State Street, the Marshall's building, we studied that and felt we could do much better by raising that structure and delivering plazas and housings at that corner. And then the resource of the parking field on top of the Libero parking garage, that was a waste to leave it as automobile space. And we felt within that 60-foot height, we could deliver housing. And then another team member explored the Hughes building and developed a prototype, a through block prototype to deliver housing and retail space that could be applied to many buildings and structures up and down State Street. And then through all this, we combined and worked together to really synergize the efforts. So there was a lot of dialogue between team members to look at the types of spaces that were created between these exercises. So we're going to go through each of these mini exercises and describe in a little bit more detail of what we discovered and what we offered as part of this exercise. But our main goal was to deliver housing and enrich the experience. And we were challenged by the number and quantity of these important resources and historic structures, but I think we did a good job of responding. So I'm going to let Cass take over and talk about El Centro, which is the nature of the plazas and pedestrian network through this development.
You have about 1 minute to go.
Oh, goodness. Okay. I'm going to move on to Los Dos and just say that this building, as existing, has a very large interior open stair that uses up much of the usable floor space. So we felt that since it was not a historically significant building and the cost to rework it to get housing, we decided to choose to provide this information about these two buildings. They're very simple buildings, 41 units, 749 square feet, and an FAR of over 3, just over 3. They're very simple buildings, as you see Jan scrolling through there, with art elements that are inspired from other buildings around the area. And then I'll put it back to Jan, and you can talk about El Pulpo and Paseo Hughes and Ana Carrillo.
So El Pulpo, the octopus, came about through our discovery of all these curving tentacle ramps that entered and left the Lobrero garage. So we kind of had fun with that. And that generated the names of the other little mini exercises. But here you can see an elevation, which is the existing Lobrero and the Metro Theater with the housing added on top. This is all done within the 60 feet. And you could see kind of a little sketch view on the lower left-hand corner, what that means looking up State Street next to Los Dos. And moving right along here.
And Jan, again, I apologize for interrupting, but if you could
wrap it up.
Yep.
Got it.
Thank you.
So here's like a little axonometric that shows El Pulpo, and you can see this housing stacked on top. And then over here is the Hughes example, the prototype for the Hughes building. And that's most and best explained by this section that shows cutting through to from State Street through to the Paseo, an interior courtyard to maximize peripheral exposure for maximizing residential density, and then delivering housing above a ground floor retail.
All right. Thank you so much.
And then, of course, there's a quick shot of the Ana Carrillo corner at Carrillo and Anacapa. That shows the upper level floor plan. You can see the beginning of the tentacle ramps on the left there.
Okay, Jan, again, I apologize, but to be fair to the other presenters.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for that. And by the way, I just want to mention, and I'll mention again later, but all of this work and much, much more than what's being presented tonight will be published in a book that will be available to everyone. So no worries, you're going to have the opportunity to examine this much more closely later. So we're on to Team 6A 1000 block.
Welcome to Luna y Dos Soles on the 1000 block of State Street. As you see from this aerial, the west side of State Street, the block is dominated by the MTD Transit Center and the large surface city parking lot. On the east side of State Street, you have a block that's mostly well-established commercial buildings, some of which are historic. Next slide, please. What we did on the west side of State Street, our design influence came from the creation of a crescent-shaped bus turn-in lane for a revamped transit center. The crescent became the inspiration for the block, the Luna block. Flanking the bus lane are two curved buildings that have subterranean parking, and then the upper levels all have housing. In the center of the block is open space connected to both State and the surrounding streets via paseos. The Luna block that we created has 135 new housing units, an FAR of 1.4, and 189 parking spaces. Now focused on the east side of State, we created a park again in the center of the block with paseos and a food truck area. On the northeast corner, we envisioned two twin residential buildings, Dos Soles. Both have subterranean and surface parking as well. The Dos Soles buildings would provide 86 new residential units with an FAR of 2.2. All of our new buildings are designed to be zero carbon. On to Juan.
Yeah, the Chapala side project reflects the nature and scale of this landmark block. I mean, access from 101 and location of the transit center, which in terms of multimodal planning is paramount. I mean, the crescent shape singles out the unique location by breaking the urban configuration of square blocks. For us, this is the gate to the new downtown, the main entrance to the overall Charrette area. Next. What follows is a mixed-use residential complex that combines Spanish colonial with a modern approach, along with perspectives, volumes, dialogues, inner parks, passageways, vegetation all around, activity, interaction, permeability, balconies, decks, penthouses. Next. All in all, we think of it as a bioclimatic castle full of surprise, a statement for State Street. Back to you, Dee.
Both of our blocks have kept the new housing and added density away from State Street, maintaining its current scale and character. For the Anacapa block, we added our housing in a new 4-story building, catty corner from the courthouse. Next slide, please. This new building is designed to be zero carbon with a high performance envelope, rooftop solar, and batteries in the basement. A high performance envelope works best when it's compact and has fairly simple massing. And this type of construction lends itself well to the character and style of Santa Barbara. Next slide. The residents would drive into a motor court and then down to subterranean parking. The 1-story businesses we removed could relocate to the ground level of this new development. And next we have our transportation expert, Hillary.
Thank you, Dee. So first, for the redesigned transit center area, we have sawtooth parking for 10 buses and improved circulation for transit. The lanes on Chapala, shown here, would be reconfigured slightly, dedicating 1 lane for transit vehicles only. Curb management throughout downtown would be crucial, reducing conflicts and designating space for commercial loading, bus stops, taxis and TNCs, and on-street parking. For State Street, we envision a space with wide pedestrian areas and designated space for dining, bike racks, landscaping, and other street furniture, ensuring ADA passive travel compliance. Designated bike lanes and a 1-way transit lane ensure everyone can enjoy State Street safely while providing access for emergency vehicles and our beloved parades. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a great presentation. So finally, the last block presentation is the 1000 block Team B.
Thanks, Teddy. I'm Brian Launder. When our group looked at our block, we saw a disconnected transit center and large open parking lot as an opportunity to reinvigorate an underutilized yet vitally important city block. We sought to connect the transit center with State Street and the rest of Santa Barbara. This connection would serve as a gateway to the city, welcoming visitors and residents alike. The focal point of this being a new mid-block transit center plaza. A new paseo would also be carved out of existing commercial spaces to complete this connection. Inefficient commercial spaces typical of Santa Barbara's State Street area that flank this paseo would be rehabilitated. Front half being more manageable commercial spaces and the rear half used for housing. Additionally, several new mixed-use buildings would be constructed, forming a series of diverse outside areas, creating a balance between density and open space. This influx of new residents, visitors, and businesses would breathe life into these newly formed spaces.
Thank you, Brian. This is the connective tissue of downtown Santa Barbara is its outdoor spaces. Connecting the transportation hubs, parking, living spaces, and commercial spaces is integral to the function of this redevelopment. The Transit Center Plaza connects Chapala through a formal but flexible tree-lined plaza punctuated with focal points. We cut through the State Street block to State, where we've created a safe meandering pedestrian school corridor with flexible tree-lined spaces for dining, shopping, and recreation. As secondary spaces within the residential areas, we've created semi-private spaces for outdoor urban living and for gathering with neighbors.
In order to enable the creation of the plaza and garden spaces for the Housing and Transit Center, we focused on two elements, parking and density. Our team wanted to avoid relegating a large footprint to a new parking garage, but believed that the existing number of parking spaces should be preserved and additional spaces added for the new housing units. An automated parking structure with a small footprint, as you see here, achieves this goal. The second aspect, key to successfully reimagining downtown, is density. Focused density in the heart of the city is what we see in Spanish and Andalusian cities, places that we refer to when speaking about Santa Barbara. These towns' average building height, as you can see at the bottom of the page, is between 3 and 6 stories, which suggests that while the majority of buildings in our downtown are 1 to 3 stories, it is possible to build taller buildings without diverging from the fundamental principles of our city. Additionally, as we see in this diagram of State Street in the middle, shown at an average 2-story building, it is possible to build taller buildings in the center of the block without changing the views from the street, which I've heard is a concern. In our scheme, we propose 3 to 4 stories at the street with 5 to 6 stories in the center of the block with a floor area ratio of 2 to 2.8 while creating open livable spaces within the block. Richard.
Thanks, Erica. In our proposed new buildings, the 300 units of housing, possibly, our plaza and our paseo, we're accommodating here a new density, which has just been outlined, while protecting air and light on the street. This new residential and business density also directs new recreational and commercial energy to support activity on the street. We, among other things, aspire to shape one new public living room for Santa Barbara with its own identity. We imagine this would join the other great spaces downtown that we have all come to love. We see this public place as offering a sense of arrival and a sense of occasion filled with the promise of action and vitality that may serve as a very real entry and direct connection to State Street in Greater Santa Barbara. Thanks.
All right. Great presentation. Thank you so much. Folks, we have one last presentation to go and a very important one. John Campanella is going to represent our team of advisors and do a presentation that talks about the analysis that they did to with these various projects to show some of the dynamics that are so important to understand. John, take it away.
Hold on one second. Deddy, could you pull yours up, please? I just had a problem at the last minute.
Okie doke, it's going to take me a minute to get that. Okay. I believe this is it here. Okay. All right, John, go ahead. Oops. Okay. Sorry, I'm not sharing yet, I guess, right? Hold on. I wasn't expecting this, but one moment here, a little technical difficulty.
John needs to stop sharing, I think.
That's it. Right, John, you'll have to stop sharing so that I can share my screen for you.
There you go.
There we go. All right, there we go.
Okay, Deddy, can you scroll up to the beginning, please?
Yeah, there we are.
Thank you. Thank God we had a backup plan. Always need one. Okay, thank you. The developers looked at this from a standpoint of what might be financially feasible, given the forms, the building forms that were presented, and also the floor areas that could support project feasibility. Next slide. The building forms that you've seen tonight really illustrates that these are the same building forms that currently exist in the Central Business District. These are all what we see every day as we go down State Street. Building form flexibility to the architects and developers can be based upon the site dimensions. They produce rectangles or pair of rectangles, U-shaped buildings around a courtyard, or a square with a center courtyard. And in all of these cases, we've seen the bird's eye view, but really only the building exterior would be visible from the street. Next. Floor area that's only accessible from a courtyard, and we've seen a lot of these in recent buildings, really creates less floor area. It's primarily a single row of residences accessed from the courtyard. It's feasible for 1960, 1970 apartments, as you see around town. It's also feasible for condominiums. Back one, Deddy, please. Okay. The floor area that could be accessible from interior hallway equals more floor area. The efficiency is you'll have 2 rows of residences accessed from a hallway, and that's feasible for apartments today. Next. So the livable floor area efficiency. The question was asked is what is floor area ratio? And that's the result of dividing the total area of a building on a lot by the total lot area. So to get to more efficiency, we asked all the teams to also come up with the percentage of livable square footage to the lot. In other words, what do people live in, how much you produce in order to provide the maximum livable floor area inside a building, subject to light, air, and circulation. The more livable floor area also creates a variety in the size of residences. You'll see and have seen from the various exhibits that micro units, studios, 1 and 2 bedroom units can all be produced in this efficient space. That creates a wider market for the population to be able to afford. Also, more livable, more livable floor area also equals efficiency in sharing cost. Site cost, which is now buildings, primarily going to be in the downtown, processing, site prep, and others, all of these expenses have to be incurred even before you start construction of the apartments. So the more apartments that you can have in livable square footage to share these costs, the more economical and feasible the project's going to be. Next. Quickly, examples that you've already seen. I'm just going to point out the efficiency of a courtyard in the center, 4-story building, and then you could look at actually where the living areas are, all accessed by interior hallways. Next. Another rectangle with interior hallway is the 401 State Street building. You've seen this before. They creatively created outdoor space over commercial in front, not having to put a roof garden on, and effectively stacked their 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors of units, again with interior hallways. Next one, Deddy. The 99-cent store, very similar. Parking, they had parking lifts, mechanical on the bottom and commercial, and then 3 floors of very efficient units. They staggered the units in order to provide a variety of unit types. Next. Now we get into U-shaped around a courtyard. This is the Balboa building. I don't know how many people know that the Balboa building is in the shape of a U. You really don't see that from the street or the side. It's very hard to detect that it's actually that form of a building. But even in this, as Dennis spoke to, they've converted office spaces into units that are accessed by a hallway and units of different sizes. The interior of the units that go around the U-shape of the open space are smaller units. The ones that go around the exterior can be bigger because you have more space to work with and subdivide those units more workable. Next. Then the De La Guerra micro units, you saw those. This one too, even though they're small units, had hallways servicing the site. And we're very efficient in this H shape or double U's, if you want to call it, to provide all of their elevators, et cetera, that could surface both wings of this project. Very efficient. And a building that is an H is Cabrillo Rec Center is in the form of an H, if you haven't noticed, but you could see that from the air. Next. Then we go to large squares with interior courtyards. Just to point out again, the efficiency here on the new building on the Cost Plus lot, surrounding, getting to the units would be by interior hallway, a variety of units and very good size and efficiency in providing livable space. Next. And last, the renovation of the Nordstrom building The floors are very efficient too, but larger units, because of the area that's involved, larger units were created. These are a lot of one-bedroom units. And the brown area that you see around the perimeter are actually patios that are very useful and efficient for the buildings, their own private space on the street. Again, with this very efficient building. So what did we learn and what did we see? Next slide. The buzzwords: building form flexibility for the architects, floor area efficiency to get more living area that you can, equals project feasibility. Our takeaways: the building forms that were created are flexible, designs are based on site dimensions, building forms are the same that currently exist in the central business district. Efficiency in designing livable floor area reduces cost, and 3 to 4 residential floors support feasibility in the CBD. Thank you.
Thank you, John. That was fantastic. Really amazing, great analysis. That's going to be very, very helpful moving forward, especially as the city formulates more and more of the sort of regulatory environment for this. I am looking to share my screen, but I'm not finding the PowerPoint that I'm looking for. Hold on for 1 minute. Close this one. Open this one. Right here. Okay, stop sharing. Share one more time. There we go. All right. So actually, I'm going to zip down to this slide. Oops. Sorry about that. So I want to there's a little bit of a lag, so I'm not hitting the right slide. Sorry. So I want to just extend a huge heartfelt thanks to all of the participants in this charrette. You have just given a tremendous gift to our community that I think is going to reverberate for years to come. It's just an incredible achievement. And I want to emphasize, this was done in this virtual environment. And as you can see, it isn't always glitch-free, but these teams worked in the same social distance way in a virtual setting. Personally, I have never seen anything quite like this. I certainly may happen on a smaller scale, but on the scale that this was undertaken, it really is a majestic achievement. Not only that, but the amount of work and highest quality work that was done and given as this gift to the community is astounding. So I want to just mention that we are going to publish a book and a PDF will be available to everyone within the next week or two. We have to finalize that. It will have something in the order of between 250 and 300 full-size pages like these. 11 by 17 pages. So you've only seen probably half of the work that's actually been done, but I think you've gotten a really great sense of what this was all about. So I want to just extend some special thanks to the many, many people that contributed to the organization of this charrette. First of all, the special thanks on the left are all the people, some of whom work for the city, people like John Campanella, and the list that you see there contributed in various ways to this effort. Our charrette steering committee, these people have been working on this for the last 3 or 4 months. We've been meeting on a regular basis. Everybody's been contributing and working on this. And again, they deserve our tremendous thanks. And then of course, there's one more element to go, and that is there will be a public exhibition of the highlights of this work that will be displayed in storefronts on State Street. And Cass is going to tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. But I want to mention that really special thank yous go to Nina Johnson, Cass Ensberg, Karen Feeney, Natalie Greenside, and Izzy Savage for the just untold hours that they put into putting this together. That installation is going to happen on Saturday and will be available starting Saturday afternoon for a month or more. And she'll tell you more about that. So I want to also thank our sponsors. We had just a number of businesses and organizations, community organizations that have contributed to make this event possible. As you can imagine, when we talk about the printing and some of these other things, there are, costs involved, and the commitment of these organizations and businesses has been invaluable. So we, again, extend our heartfelt thank you to them. I want to mention that there will be input on opportunities, and hopefully some of you ask questions in the chat room. We've recorded this whole session today, and hopefully we can post it on YouTube or something like that, or Vimeo, so that you could scroll through it and review it at any time. We also have the Plan SB website, which is worked up on a Google platform, and all the projects have been uploaded there, and you will have the opportunity to provide your public comments there as well, and you can review the projects, of course. For any more information and other opportunities for public input, keep your eye on the AIASB.com website for any future announcements about the Charrette. And so again, from the bottom of my heart, I thank everybody who participated in this, who gave so generously of their time and passion to produce this amazing work. And of course, to you, the audience, for bearing with us tonight, especially through one or two technical glitches that can only be expected when you're working in this kind of setting. Again, thank you so much. I want to ask Cass and Ellen if they have any closing words for our audience and our participants. Cass?
Yeah, I would thank you, Debby. What an amazing job you did to navigate all of this. The air traffic controller position is never easy. And thank you so much for doing it so well. And thanks to everyone again. I just would echo what Debby has already said, what the great work that we've seen, and how proud that I am of our entire community, our design community, and all the people who have participated in this. And we look forward to the exhibit on State Street. I think you're all going to really enjoy it. So we'll look forward to that, and for further input from the community as we move forward with taking all this information and finding ways to move forward as a city. So just my heartfelt thanks as well. I'll leave it at that. And Ellen, if you have anything to say.
Yes, just a few extra words to amplify what Cass and Debby have already spoken about. What an honor to work with both of them for me and the rest of the team, but just the many conversations that we've had creating this event and seeing it through. And the excellent work that Cass and the team have done on the upcoming exhibition that will be opening on Saturday. The most important work is in some ways, yet to come in terms of working together with the city to, present this work to representatives there and staff, and see what sort of effect all of this will have on zoning policy coming up. It's all about community building. It's about making downtown into a neighborhood and thinking through all the parts and pieces. Like, will we have a school downtown? And, can we really create walkable neighborhoods there and a more inclusive, affordable community to welcome more people into Santa Barbara? So thanks again from the three of us and the rest of the team that were so closely involved in all of this.
And we'll see you next time when there's another charrette. Thanks.
Good night, and grab a glass of wine and decompress.
Thank you all.
Should have some closing music or something. I don't know.
Great job, Eddie, Cass. Awesome presentation. I've never seen anything like it in 35 years here in Santa Barbara. Awesome job.
Oh, thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Amazing. We did, man. It's incredible.
It's just, it's so inspiring, and just working with and seeing the work of the talent of this community is just really a mind blowing.
Think about what AIASB has done. This should, we should get another national award for this, like we did for our housing project. So let's submit it. Go for it.
Yeah, very proud.
Great idea, Michael.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
All right, bye-bye. Good night. Take care.